Yes, and on the lines of relationships and some of the things, I don't want to say misconceptions, but some of the things people think about relationships and, how it may truly manifest. T Grizzly, salute to T Grizzly. He did an interview. This was a little while ago, but he did an interview. I think I recall watching a good portion of the video, this interview. And as you know, T Grizzly is, you may or may not know, he's married, has a beautiful family. A dope brother in general. Definitely one of the categories of an artist that there are some things outside of music that I definitely enjoy about them. But he was doing an interview, and in this particular part of the video or the interview, they were talking about his relationship and how he views the concept of being the one for somebody. And it says T Grizzly explains why he feels like there is no such thing as somebody being the one when it comes to relationships. Let's hear what he has to say.
Married pretty young. Most people say that's pretty young, especially in this industry. 28 years old. Mm-hmm. How did you know she was the one?
Yeah, so it's no such thing as somebody being the one. You know,
you about to start some on social media with that one.
No, listen though. It's no such thing as somebody being the one, man. This takes effort. It got to be something you want to do. You got to be the one.
Uh-oh.
Did it stop? Or?
I think Ace froze.
Uh-oh.
No.
You know what? Ain't not that you just want to do, and it's got to be something you make a choice to put effort into. You feel me?
I agree with that. I agree with that, but she's still got to be special enough for you to say, "This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with."
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean,
yeah, I think your internet might have paused or something.
The internet paused.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. We do it live.
Is that a me thing?
Yeah, on my end, it seemed like you froze as well, but it might have.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. All right.
It's for once.
It's relatively short. You didn't say too much. Just refresh it real quick. Everybody, it's a nice Saturday evening. Just sit back, comfy, cozy. Good content.
Now, you got married pretty young. Most people say that's pretty young, especially in this industry. 28 years old. Mm-hmm. How did you know she was the one?
Yeah, so it's no such thing as somebody being the one. You know,
you about to start some on social media with that one.
No, listen though. It's no such thing as somebody being the one, man. This takes effort. It got to be something you want to do. You got to be the one. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You got to be the one that want to do it because they don't propose. You do. Mm-hmm. You feel me? This got to be something you want. This got to be something you want to do. This got to be something that you're willing to stick with no matter what. And there's got to be something you make a choice to put effort into. You feel me?
I agree with that. I agree with that, but she's still got to be special enough for you to say, "This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with."
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, everybody's special. Mm-hmm. You feel me? There's nobody out here that's not special in their own way. You know, with her.
That's used to tell her.
Huh?
That's used to tell her.
I don't know about no. I ain't never had none. I ain't never had none.
But I like your take on that though. Like you got to be the one. You got to, because a lot of men always put it on a woman. It's like she was the one and she wasn't it. But you're talking about the other side of it, which I appreciate that. No, we don't hear that.
Yeah.
Ever. So.
No, for sure. You got to want it. You got to want it definitely.
When did you realize? What made you want to do it at that particular moment, in that particular time?
So this always been a dream of mine. I always knew I was gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? Because the household I grew up in.
So let's see, here's that. They put no interview. We might finish the rest of this, but I think that was kind of the main part he said about how, in his per his view, he doesn't believe in a quote unquote one. And I think this is kind of equal to how some people have a notion of like a match made in heaven. Like there's that one person at the Most High, or that somebody chose to be your significant other. You don't believe in that. You gotta work towards that. And I think this is something that we might have generally heard from time to time. But when you kind of think about it in that, you could interpret that to mean you could effectively take. I don't want to say many, but a lot of. Probably whatever your view of many, you could take anyone and build a sustainable relationship with them. And And I'm curious to know what y'all think about that. Do y'all have the notion of match made in heaven, somebody being that one for you, or do you think, like T. Grizzly said, this is something you have to put effort into, and quote unquote consequently mean you can make somebody to be your best suited partner? What do you think, Ace?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think of there being one person that you like there only being one person that you could have a compatible
What do you
and
mean? Wasn't there
fully,
one woman for Adam, Eve?
yeah, but
Literally the first ever, the only woman.
Sorry.
yeah, just being thinking about it, I don't know, like um from a like contractual standpoint, which marriage kind of is, it's
Oh, where's he
in
going with
a
this?
it's an agreement that I think you can, like, if you're willing to, you can keep that agreement with any potential person as long as there's some, I mean, as long as there's some level of compatibility. um I think you can keep that agreement. So in that way, like, I don't necessarily think there's one person that you could marry, and any other person, the marriage would be unsuccessful or even unloving. Like, I don't think that's true.
So you can take again. When I get because you said compatibility, which is an important factor. Do you think you can take anyone that you have some level of compatibility with, and put in the work to have a sustainable marriage or relationship?
Um, not necessarily. I mean, I don't think there's any guarantee of. I yeah, it's kind of depressing, but I don't think there's any guarantee
Hey man,
of.
let's talk about it. Let's be real.
I don't think there's guarantee of success with the marriage. So
Well,
you,
actually, I'm not really leaning on that. I'm not necessarily saying like the knowing the final outcome, but I'm just saying for that to be your intention.
yeah. I think you could definitely, and I mean, it would make sense. Like, if you're compatible with the person, and they're and you both agree that you want to work towards, or you want to get married and work on, having a successful marriage, and continue to put in the work um that a successful marriage requires. Like, if you both go into it with that agreement, yeah, I think that can happen. I think that agreement could be made with any potential person that you're compatible with, if you both have that intention.
What if you're compatible in their mind? They have that intention, but your definition of putting that effort, putting that work is different from theirs.
Well, I mean, that's probably the problem with a good amount of marriages, is um a misconception of those terms, or the, yeah, again, the amount of work that needs to go into maintaining the marriage.
So would you then say like there is like a high level uniqueness that that the partner would have to have in order for it to go the distance?
um I don't know, like, I don't know, because I don't know the number of people that could potentially um satisfy the requirements that, like, say for me, I don't know the number of women that could potentially satisfy the qualifications that I would have for what would make up a successful marriage. Like,
Dang, you're
there's
that
no way for
picky.
me to know that percentage. And it's
I
not even that
mean,
I'm picky.
you
There's
can
just
you
no
can
way.
you can start to gauge based off your like knowledge, experience, and like of the world. I mean, like
I
there's
guess, but I mean, I could say, like, of the women I've known, it's a low percentage.
yeah, you don't have to go based off what you've known, but like that could exist.
Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, what was I gonna say? shoot, I had a good thought I was gonna say. Of the women I've known. Oh, that probably leads to the idea of the one, is that over the course of our lives, like we're only gonna meet a very limited number of people compared to the number of people that are actually in the world. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if we think of that, like that actual percentage, maybe in terms of the whole world, there's going to be it's going to it would feel like there's definitely more than just the one you've met over the course of your life. But since we are limited
The internet
in
does
how
expand
many
it though,
people,
but
true. But there's still that level of limitation, that probably does lend to the idea of the one, just from, I mean, it's a statistical standpoint. Like the
yeah.
lower your pool is, the more, or the smaller the pool is, the more it's going to seem like, this person is the only person I could have been with. There's no other person in the world.
And I'm glad you kind of thought about it in terms of yourself. Because I was gonna ask, not ask that, but I was gonna say if it helps, y'all can think about it in terms of like for yourself. What do you think are the chances of? Not chances, but like, do you think it's like a small group of people that could end up, being a compatible partner with you? And then what do you think of like the average person? Do you think for the average person it's like similar to where it's like a relatively small group of people, or do you think it expands out less or more?
It's probably pretty small for, I mean, for maybe any given person. Maybe, but because like we're thinking about, or I'm thinking about, the potential for these people to have a successful relationship. I think it's still probably pretty small when you consider the limited number of people you're taking out of the pool of the world.
Yeah, and I guess we can. If you I was gonna say maybe we can keep it in the states, but honestly, with the internet, you do have the world technically. Um, but what about you, Ghost? What do you think of the idea or concept of the one? Do you believe there is the one for you, or do you?
This is off topic, but y'all keep saying the one like that, and I keep thinking of the Matrix and Neo.
Oh my lord,
But
the one. You are the one.
but I think this is. I guess before I give my answer, when T Grizzly's talking about this, I think for me personally, I think he's interpreted it or understanding it differently, because the way he's phrasing it, and correct me if I'm wrong, and the way I interpret it is that he's saying that you shouldn't think of just one person as the one, and that one person is who you actually put an effort to be with long term. And if they don't fall under that classification, then you don't foresee a long term future with. When have thought about it generally and traditionally, or what people have said, is like, it's this: you can be with multiple people, you can put an effort with multiple people, but only one person is really gonna be at like a max level of compatibility with you and meet all your requirements and stuff like that. I don't know if that's an important distinction or not, or you guys interpret it the same way.
The reason why I'm laughing is because what the even funnier thing, and I don't want to get off into this tangent just yet, but we're talking about the one, but we're only talking about the concepts, and maybe we should stick to that in the concept of if a person truly only wants one partner. But
yeah, like
that's a good point. I
don't
like,
think that's
especially Ben.
I think you can have multiple people that you could potentially be married to and have a successful marriage with, but there's just one person that, of all the people in the world, or that you'll end up meeting, that you have that level of understanding and compatibility with, that you could get close to it with other people, but you won't necessarily achieve it. But I don't even think that means you can't have a successful marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when go ahead, Ace. Go ahead.
So are you just looking at it from like again from a statistical standpoint, where there's going to be one person that's at like that 99.999%, and
I
then everybody else is a little bit lower than that.
I get what you're saying. That's not really how I'm looking at it, because technically, from a statistical standpoint, you're right. There's going to be one person that inevitably will fit best with you. I'm just thinking about
Only one?
myself from like, I mean, by definition, there can only be one.
No.
But it's
People,
just the
Yeah,
highest,
there's
like,
only
person at the
like the highest.
you guys don't believe
best.
you guys don't believe there are multiple people that have like damn near bar for bar the same like outline of human.
But there's always going to be that little inkling,
Yeah.
99.98 versus 99. That
exactly.
one person will be higher. But I'm not even looking at it from that.
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily
standpoint.
stay on that if it's not that important, but
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe it's something I believe so.
This is like pseudoscience, because what are we even talking about in terms of a 99.9999%?
Yeah,
I think it's actually not a bad way to. I mean, even though it is kind of making this seem more inhuman, quote unquote. But I think it is like a good way to measure. Like there's going to be a number of people, maybe a small number of people, that are like 90+% compatible with you, and then you broaden it up to whatever what's in your pool of what makes you a person compatible with you, then it becomes like 80%, and then you just keep going down the long line to where you have like no compatibility with them. So I guess maybe another prevalent, and it's not really, I don't know if people could be able to honestly articulate it, but like I wonder if you did like a survey, what would people say is like the level of compatibility you need with somebody for it to make sense? But again, that's
for
like
marriage to make sense.
yeah, but that's like hard to kind of. I mean, on like a grand scale, we can like think of like, okay, do we have the same views of like faith, of quote unquote politics, of like family? Like those are probably some big things that go into compatibility. But then there's like smaller things like what type of, not small, but what type of house you want to live in, what type of environment you want to live in, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know. There's not going to be someone that's the top of the list in all those categories. It's just, that's impossible. There might be someone that averages out to be in the best, if we're looking at it as still from a statistical standpoint. But yeah, so I guess I kind of got sidetracked because it's not relevant necessarily to the question. I just thought it was kind of interesting the way he framed it versus I usually see it. But going back to the actual topic of discussion, I don't believe in the concept of it. Just I kind of mentioned it briefly earlier.
I wonder if this is a masculine thing. Although I think I've seen a lot of guys say they're waiting for their one and only like queen.
Yeah, because I think ideally, if you are getting married to someone, you think in your head that you want to spend the rest of your life with this person. You're not going to find anyone better. But let's say, God forbid, like that person dies or something happens.
Jesus.
You're not with them for your entire life. I think if you subscribe to the notion that, there is only this one person, and then after they die, then
you want to get remarried.
Yeah, exactly. You won't remarry. I don't think that's accurate. I think there can be multiple different women, multiple different significant others that you might find throughout the course of your life that you could spend your life with, but it's just, it would be difficult. It's like kind of tied into what Ace is saying, and between all the women that dealt with in my life in the past and that I could foresee myself being with, I mean, I don't think that there's a I don't say I think it's like a whole line of women that would fit the qualifications, for lack of a better term.
For you or for average person? What's your answer for both? Actually, sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting because for me, I think.
Come on, are you picky?
I think I'm on the pickier side. However, I think that every person has, unless you're like a a sociopath or you have like some mental disorder. I think every person kind of has the same number of people or the same baseline of how compatible you can be with another person.
You have to be sociopathic?
No, I'm saying unless you were like an outlier in a certain way where your mind is just you think completely differently from everyone else. In general, most men, most women are going to have a similar number of people that they can feasibly marry and have a successful marriage. But the distinction is you might be a lot more selective with who you think that could be versus not actually who it is.
Doesn't that conflict with the previous statement?
No, because you can think that you're compatible with a lot of people, but when you start dealing with the ins and outs and the minutia of their personality and how they approach things, then you think, oh, I'm actually not compatible with the person.
Okay, so repeat it one more time. I guess I'm missing it. You're saying the number of people that a man and woman could end up with is the same?
Yeah, so like a quick, basic, super simple analogy or example, like you got 10, you're a dude, you got a list of 10 different women that you could potentially be with. You, in your mind, you might be picking, say, oh, I only want to be with 2 of them. And in reality, maybe 3 of them you could have a successful marriage with if you went down that road. And on the flip side, you might have someone that thinks, oh, I can be with like 7 or 8 of these women, but those still only 3 that you would end up having a successful relationship with. So the 3 and the 3 are the same. It's just are you more selective than another person? Kind of another statistical
I don't know if
way of looking at it.
I don't know if it's clicking all the way, but I think you do agree with the sentiment that for some people they are going to be a bit more selective than other people.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah,
and maybe just by the nature of like what they got going on, like maybe your faith is like something that only a small number of people subscribe to. Maybe like you want to live in Florida, which no, I'm just joking. A lot of people actually want to live in Florida. If you want to live in Alaska, probably the number of partners that'll co-sign there will probably start to get slim.
Yeah,
they're just like kind of one-off examples. Okay, so you said so you're on the picker's side. You think? Dang, I kind of want to dig into. I want to dig into that. I don't want to take up all night. Okay, just quick one, maybe 2 things that you will make you say you are a bit selective.
The reason why I think that, for me, it's not even like I don't think it's like a matter of like, oh, I want X amount of kids or I don't want to live in a certain spot. For me, it's just like imagining like in my day-to-day life when I'm by myself or I'm doing certain things, I'm like, if I'm with a partner, if I'm with a woman right now, how would she? It's kind of weird because I don't like plan out in my head exactly how it would happen, but I'm just like imagining like what type of person would I want to be with that they would interact with me or have a certain reaction to certain things I do or say in a specific way, and how
so what, you're saying you can't even fathom your future wife? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's more so like based on my past experience of like how a general amount of people would react to, like I can't think of like a specific example which I know would help.
I'm just looking for like a specific thing that you think
they can't be a bad singer, right? And sing around the house.
Oh yeah, he did say that.
That I guess, yeah. Again, it's not even. It's certain things like that. It's like a culmination of small things. Like if I'm sitting there reading for 2 hours and listening to music, and she wants to go out and for a couple hours and go to a bar or something. That's not the best. That's not the best example. But
to a restaurant.
Yeah, yes, you gotta change that because if your sister wants to go to a bar and you want to be at home, then son, y'all are not compatible. Unless you want to go to
what? There's a lot of people that want to go to bars with their significant others. Just
Yeah, with your significant others. I didn't hear you
I'm not
say-
saying by yourself. I'm saying
Gotcha.
together with the other person. So
Even if I don't know if you finished that statement. If you're saying that you wouldn't want to go out if you're in that type of mode and environment, then you're probably not all compatible unless you're just saying that.
And I mean, it's not going to be like
reader. You need a reader.
Yeah, I think that is true.
How many women are avid readers? We gotta look into that. Anyway, you're taking. Well, not that you're taking a long time, but then what about you, Ace? What's one or two ways in which you would say like you're selective?
This is a lot harder for me, actually. I think we talked about this in the past.
Oh yeah,
difficult time.
Yeah. This. Maybe it's changed as you evolved.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, to be honest.
Do you need a person that's Oof, I don't want to get into your personal lives.
My thing is my stuff isn't like that. The things that I can think of aren't that crazy. Like in terms of age, I would want them to be.
So yes, so maybe you don't have any selective things. So maybe you have a broad pool of candidates that would meet you.
I guess, yeah. I feel like I probably have a broader pool, but
what about
maybe
like
it averages it out?
Introverted versus extroverted, outgoing, talkative, quiet.
Either could work.
Not to get your thing, and I guess it's maybe applicable to all of us. But would you need a person that's like heavily preoccupied, normally, or is it not a big difference?
They're busy a lot.
Yeah, they're as busy as you, basically, or yeah, in general.
So
or they could have free time taking walks in the park, chilling while you, or even in your all up under you in your business while you trying to work.
I mean, yeah, all of these things seem like they could work. I think I would actually maybe prefer the last one, but I mean, I don't know.
Fair enough. It's definitely something to think about, yes, and like your perspective of like when you are interacting with people, like, hey, what does their life look like, and trying to relate it to yours rather.
Yeah, I mean, maybe my idea about this is still immature, but I still think in terms of the idea of compatibility like being the biggest thing, and when I say that, I mean I don't really understand and this is just in terms of friendships, I don't really understand how some of the people I've become friends with, like how or why we're compatible, like what that actually arose from, because a lot of times I don't necessarily like the stuff that they're into, like it's been sports, it's been different things, or it's like we just generally do not have the same likes, but because our personalities are so compatible, it doesn't even matter. Like we can talk about whatever they like, we can talk about whatever I like, and we're still into that because we like we're compatible around each other. We just like each other's company.
Well, it seems like maybe your compatibility isn't super big on like interests. Maybe they're more so aligned with like maybe how you treat each other.
Yeah, maybe. But even like you said, introvert and extrovert.
Maybe are you open to different?
Yeah, and even with the introvert and extrovert, it's like I don't think that necessarily plays into it if the two people have this like in sync compatibility. They'll still be like, in my mind, you could still have a very fruitful and fulfilling relationship. Even if the personalities, like compared to other people, as far as introvert and extrovert, it doesn't really match up. So I don't know.
Fair enough. One day we are going to dig deeper into that because I feel as if for a lot of people compatibility is hard to describe, but the more and more I've like just kind of looked at relationships, look at my own relationships, I think I don't want to say get it down to a science, but there are some like key things, and some of the things I'm mentioned have been like broad about like faith, where you want to live, environments, things of that nature, like interests. But I think some of these things do accumulate to like establishing compatibility. And I will say for some people, I would even say for myself to a certain degree, like what your interests are, it doesn't necessarily heavily weigh on you, but I think there are some things that are like tangible, so identifiable, that like I can identify whether this person is going to be compatible. I'm not to out my, I guess I don't have to think about these things in this Lord's will in this context, but like one thing for me, and I would say it's true for a lot of guys, if you're a person that wants to be going out late and staying out late in certain environments, that's just not going to be compatible for me because that's not my interest. So that's like an example. Certain professions, I'm not going to get into it, but it's just not going to be compatible. Some of that argue, some of that argumentative, not going to be compatible. I could go on, but I digress. Yeah, but I think getting back to this again, so let's see Grizzley. I think yeah, I mean, think we could actually go on longer for this because it's interesting. It's like if we can kind of rationalize and come to the conclusion that like it really doesn't boil down to a one. It is like finding some level of compatibility and then you putting the required work to make it last and sustainable. Why is it so heavily portrayed in the media and even like to a point where people like genuinely will ask like, how did you know this person was the one? Why is it that's a popularized thing in society for this person to be like, you're one that heaven brought together? What do you think, Ghost? It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just kind of generally asking, generally curious to why y'all think that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest reason is probably just like romance novels, romance movies, and the idea of the one is so heavily perpetrated and enforced over and over in media, and it's just become like the standard or the idealization of what a relationship should be like. Like you find.
So if it's such a big thing, why? So if it's such a big thing, why didn't it affect you? Why don't you want other one? Your queen.
Oh, I mean, I want someone that ideally gives me the feeling that I found the one, but I just don't think that there's actually only one.
Oh, there we go. Everybody wants that feeling. They're super special. There's no one else like them. Is that what you're saying?
That's not the case, which is why I say that there's not just.
But you're saying you want the feeling.
Yeah. What do you mean?
So you want
literally the point of like why you want to get married.
That is not the point of why I want to get married or why you should want to get married.
Hold on. What would you say the point is?
The point of marriage is a unionship and family building.
Yeah, because you love the person. Essentially, what it boils down to, right? Well,
the thing I'm saying is a much broader and not more important, but like it's really like it's like feeling isn't necessarily the most one-to-one tied thing into the.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I'm making fun of you. But
disagree. Feeling should you can want to get married for a lot of different reasons that you stated, but the person that you marry should be exclusively because you love them.
Oh, we're not gonna dive into this right now.
How is that is that a crazy take?
No, it's not a crazy take.
Don't get yourself into trouble now.
I don't believe in getting in trouble. Let's be very clear. Yes, you should love them, and it will be a part of it. But I'm saying the literal purpose for marriage, and I hate to I don't want to be one of the guys that gets into how marriage has been traditionally, but it typically is like a unionship of families and continuing to procreate, continuing to build a community. It's about the building of, I don't want to say a nation, but of a group. That's like the raw key purpose. The love thing is not like the main reason. The love is like the love is the love is like a benefit of it. And even in that love, I don't know if I would say that you need to feel like you are the only one.
We're gonna extend this topic a little bit, cause okay, so if you let me ask two separate questions. It don't have to be long answers, but arranged marriages, I think we kind of touched on this before.
I'm all for it.
If it wasn't arranged, you are on board with it. So if the arranged marriage doesn't result, like it results in like you respect other person, you build a family with them, but you don't necessarily feel like a deep love for them. Are you okay with that?
I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine how I could not feel this love for this person. But if I agree to, because I believe in arranged marriage, but I also believe in choice. Let's be clear. Like if someone says no,
I get that. Like don't force them.
But if you marry somebody, you make that like commitment. Again, it's hard for me to understand this, but if you, for whatever reason, one day you just wake up and you don't really love this person, you gotta eat that, bro. You gotta write it out. And you can also, I also strongly believe in like, love is like damn near a choice. Like, obviously, I'm like there are some things that aren't like that are beyond human control, like our interests, our attractions, what we like. So I'm not saying these things you can just make it appear over time, but it's in terms of like having a connection with the person, wanting like doing things, you having enjoyment with that person. Those things you can work on. You can work towards like quote unquote loving, depending on how you perceiving love with a person. Absolutely.
You can, but it shouldn't feel like, in my opinion, it shouldn't feel like a job. But okay, I guess another quick scenario.
Marriage is gonna feel like a job. I don't newsflash for everybody out there. Marriage is going to feel like a job. It is
a job that you have to put in work, obviously, in marriage.
I think Grizzley said as much.
I agree with that, but it should be a job that you enjoy doing and you love doing. Do you agree with that, or do you not?
I want to say these things can both be true. Yeah, I would say generally, yeah.
Like if you feel like you're in a relationship, you kind of said it already, but you're in a relationship, you're putting in work to love the person, but you're not loving the process, for lack of a better phrase.
Well, you might not love the process. There are going to be some aspects in processes of relationship in a marriage that you don't love.
That's fine, but instead of aspects, I'm saying like the overall marriage with the person, like every day, I don't want to say it's a struggle, but it's the overall feeling.
The overall feeling of a marriage has to be positive. I agree with that sentiment.
Okay, and sorry, one last question for you. Let's say you have two different women, two different prospects. I hate phrasing it like this, but one woman that you feel a stronger passion, stronger connection with, you enjoy her personality more. I guess you could say you love her more. I kind of don't want to reduce it down to that, but it's essentially she feels like you're one for whatever reason, but she has some things about her that might not make it as easy or possible to fulfill the duties of a marriage. Like for example, let's say she's barren, that she can't have kids or something like that.
You can cut it. You can cut it right there. Actually, you don't have to cut it because damn, did I ever admit this? To y'all? I don't believe I specifically, and I don't even like having the conversation, but I specifically want one wife. I'm not really interested in multiple wives. So to all the brothers that do, I'm not even necessarily against it. So I actually really give a lot of props to the king. I would say he would be even more dope if he had them all under one roof. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want that. The only way I could potentially even foresee myself in the conversation of multiple wives, whatever the case may be, is if I had a wife but she couldn't produce.
So Rachel and Leah's situation.
Exactly.
So to finish off my question, it was going to be the first wife, obviously, the personality wise, she's kind of ideal for you, but there's some difficulties. And the second wife is like, you don't feel that. I don't want to say you don't feel any love, but there's a lot less certain things about her personality you don't like.
Well, I think every partner that you choose, you should have a high level love for them. But sorry to keep interrupting your question.
No, you're good. Like I get it. Like there should so in your mind there should definitely be a baseline. But if one's at like a 7 and one's at a 10, you would prioritize like the duty, the aspects that should be able to fill the duty better. Like doesn't have any issues with childbearing or anything like that. You would choose. I was gonna ask if you would choose the second over the first, but it sounds like you would choose both.
If I can only get one, it sounds really messed up, and that's why I actually, and a lot of the people that I've ever talked to, I really emphasize the importance of kids, because that's really what I want. I also want a wife too, but yeah, I gotta. If I can only get one, again, I'm choosing the one kids I can have kids with.
All right, yeah, that's all. I think I have a very fundamentally different view of it than you do, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Just interesting.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, obviously whenever we bump the conversations about relationships, marriage, compatibility, obviously those conversations can be in a whole podcast in itself, but there's stuff to talk about. So unless there's anything else, we can move on to the next topic.